How you guys doing? I have received a bunch of weird messages, and some of them are just like, I'm almost impressed you went to the effort kind of thing. Like when people send me emails, I'm like, you know, I barely check the emails from my business email, and you've gone to the effort to like find my email and then send me something. So like this one, for example. Don't ever come to America by John Rip. He's got more letters there. I cut him off. I will personally beat the ever-living dog shit out of your FAGGOT ass. I will shit down your throat and your FAGGOT ass motherfucker. If you ever come to America, you better make sure you have security. Hell, when you walk around out in Australia, you better have security. I know there's somebody that wants to beat your little FAGGOT ass, and I'm just going to be sitting around waiting for the video of it happening. Don't ever come to America. Don't ever come. You are going to get trounced, bitch. Like, I received a lot of hateful messages and a lot of death threats and shit, but like, this one was like special. Have you guys heard the news that in Australia from December, you're going to need to give the government's ID to watch porn? Australia to force porn websites to check users' ages under new internet rules. Adult websites will need to check ID, scan faces, use AI or other age check measures to restrict access to only adults under new industry codes registered by the e-safety commissioner. So like, I know some states in America passed some stuff like that, causing some websites just to stop providing services in those states. And the UK has stuff like this as well. And I guess Australia is just the next one to do it. I mean, I'm sure these rules exist in other countries I don't follow, but every single time one of these things happens, I think to myself, man, I wish I had some investments in VPNs. Yeah, NordVPN ad coming. Did your government not want you to come? Check out NordVPN. It'll make you come. I just wish there was a way, I mean, surely does everyone, to keep the wrong people in terms of their ages away from this content without necessarily inconveniencing everyone else in the population and potentially creating a place of valuable information that can be stolen by malicious actors. Because like, in theory, the government already has all this stuff, right? Like, I have a passport and the government issued me that passport. But traditionally, it's third parties that are checking this stuff, right? So I guess whether this is truly going to be a risk is going to depend on how it's done. Has anyone heard of the data from this stuff leaking? Yeah, there's always risk when you add stuff like this. I guess, assuming goodwill, it's people implementing these rules, they believe it's worth it. I believe the data isn't stored for more than 48 hours. Of course, the view is always that, how much can you trust the government? Are they going to be honest? The UK government leaked 100K user data? Well, yeah. I think this is going to go through. I just hope nothing bad happens, I suppose. Well, it's already gone through. It's just like, it's just not started to work yet. So it's always interesting when you live your entire life with a misconception and you had no idea, right? I ran across this video titled, What People Get Wrong About Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 1991. And the media that I would watch about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, often cartoons and stuff, would have a scientist, was a nice guy, but who would take a potion, either because he couldn't help himself or he was addicted or out of ignorance, and it would transform him, taking over his body and making him into a monster of some sort. Either into, like, sometimes in terms of physical appearance, but in terms of temperament, always. Like, he was just a bad dude. And this small channel, in 3 weeks, has gotten 1 million views on this video. Zorz, only got 11K subscribers. I highly recommend watching the video. I am somewhat going to give away the premise, but it's still worth it to watch. And he explains that was not how it was in the original book, that all this popular media is based off. The idea of the original book is that there was no Mr. Hyde. Or rather, like, the dude could change his physical appearance, but he was always cognizant of what he was doing. So Dr. Jekyll, feeling repressed by society and stuff, being unable to do what he really wanted to do, transforms himself into Mr. Hyde, fully aware of himself, not changing mentally at all. But because he's now got the altered physical appearance of Mr. Hyde, he can do what he actually wants to do and be a bad person, which completely goes against every showcasing of the story I've ever seen. He was hiding? I think that's kind of the point, yeah. He was hiding in plain sight. So he had a split personality? No, he didn't have a split personality. That's the point. There wasn't two entities inhabiting the same body. The potion wasn't changing him mentally. Basically, he just was like, I'm a lovely man and I would never hurt anyone. Puts on a mask. You don't know who I am anymore? Pulls out a knife. Come here. That's it. That was like the twist of the original story. It's presented as if there's really two people when you realize, at the apparently near the end or whatever that no, it was always just Dr. Jekyll acting out his always the sick impulses he always had. So it turns out, guys, that the YouTube liaison has come out and said, hey, yo, deleting videos may not be a good idea. I talked about this before, but I didn't show it on screen, I don't think. Deleting or privating a video removes it from the watch history of the viewer, and watch history is a factor used to determine future recommendations. I didn't think about this. I didn't realize that it would remove the videos from people's watch history, that it would influence the algorithm that they had. Whether that hurts or not depends on your goal. Yes, if you still want to connect with people who watch that video, or no, if you don't want to connect with them anymore. When I first deleted my first video, I was looking at like the click-through rate. And I'm like, oh, it has like a 1% click-through rate. This must be a bad video. And surely like this is dragging down the overall stats of my channel, which it would, right? Like the average click-through rate for my entire channel would be reduced by things like that. And of course the watch time if it was a shorter video and people weren't watching as long and da-da-da. And I thought like making the stats of my overall channel be better would be the most beneficial thing that I could do. But learning that for those who did like that content, who did watch, who did click, that I'm deprioritizing myself in the algorithm, that's bad. That is not good. I didn't consider that as a possibility. I'm removing passive income. The videos I deleted were making effectively no money, often not being in the algorithm at all. We're talking like, I'd look at like how much money did I make for this video in the last 90 days and it'd be like $1. Like, well, better to have my overall channel be more successful than to make $1 per quarter. They continue here. For example, sometimes people pivoting topics want to try and bring their existing audience with them, and sometimes they want to start fresh. On the main channel, I don't think the videos I've deleted have really impacted anything. Certainly, I've not ever noticed a downturn in my analytics based on removing videos, but certainly it was a dumb decision to do for the Rambles channel. Because before I removed all the Rambles, right, I still periodically removed weaker ones, or I had already removed quite a few before I removed the rest very recently. So I probably can't ever use that channel again, which I probably wasn't going to anyway, but he says here, weighing the decision along with other factors, like whether you want the video on your channel regardless. I believe what I'm gonna do now in the future is any video that I want out of the algorithm, I'm just going to either leave unlisted or to make members. I'll probably make it members. And I will hope that YouTube will have the presence of mind not to recommend my really old member videos.
Does having one poor performing video affect the algorithm regardless of if you have other huge successful vids uploaded at similar times?
No one knows. That's the thing. No one knows exactly how the algorithm works, how much any video affects any other video. So what was my motivation for removing them? I just like the idea that every video on my channel was at the highest quality possible, that I would always put my best foot forward. There were other reasons, of course. Some information was out of date. I didn't believe the same stuff that was in those videos. They weren't relevant to anything going on. But like I certainly could have just put them and left them all as unlisted, which I did for a while. Such is the way of things. I feel like this video did not get as much love as it should have. I don't know if that's just because people aren't as interested in the topic as I was, but there's this video that was released by Mr. Saints Godzilla 21, who does a lot of stuff about the Saints Row franchise. In fact, this is the first video he's uploaded in a year, which is crazy to think. My 2019 visit to Volition and the Saints Row We Never Got, part 1. I even subscribed because I want to see part 2. He talks about how 5 years ago, he went to the offices to see the development of the last Saints Row game that we got. What was it? Saints Row 2022. He talks about how Saints Row was a very different game originally, and multiple times during development that it kind of got rebooted, restarted and stuff, which I think was fairly, like people knew that to some degree, right? But in here, he shows like different assets and recreations of some assets and stuff, and talks he's had with people who worked at the company, like both back then and now. He only made the video now because he was under NDA, apparently. It's a very interesting video, an eye-opening, interesting video. If you're interested in Saints Row at all, I highly recommend giving this video a look. Shows some of the mistakes were built in from the beginning, but executive meddling and persistent memory issues really kneecap the game. Yes. So basically, they took the game we all wanted and just threw it in the trash, and they blamed Volition for it, then shut them down. It was pretty tragic. Have you heard about Charlie turning off ways to donate and give him money? How do you feel about the backlash he's getting from some other streamers that feel like donating is mandatory? Is he actually getting backlash? If so, that would be a huge shift from the old days. Because once upon a time, people like Pokimane and Disguised Toast did the same. Oh, actually, Pokimane apparently 5 years ago made it a $5 cap. I believe Disguised Toast turned off donations entirely, right? Oh yeah, 6 years ago, Disguised Toast removed donations bits from his channel. But like, I'm sure this happens all the time. People feel like they make enough money from other sources or whatever, or in some cases, some people actually think it's just disruptive to their content and want it turned off. So I'm surprised that Charlie would get backlash from this. Like, this probably happens with some creator like every week or something, but it's not, they don't have the kind of presence that Charlie has, so people don't comment on it or acknowledge it, right? I think he's getting backlash because he said to donate to Gaza instead, and some people are pro-Israel. I might be wrong though. Oh, that could be possible. I haven't seen this. I've seen something about Charlie getting 41 million, could be wrong. Charlie doesn't need more money. With that being said though, donations are entirely optional, entirely. As long as you're not doing, like, as long as you don't have a lot of money and you're like begging for donations, or acting like you have less money than you actually do. Like, I'll tell you guys to the council, I'm doing fine. You do not need to donate me any money. As long as you aren't somewhat tricking your audience into giving you money, I don't think it's a problem for you to have ways for people to give you money. In large part because being able to engage with the stream in some capacity and have like an alert appear and stuff, that's a part of the live stream experience.
I appreciate everything you've said. Much of what you say I agree with, especially when it comes to React content, and if I don't, it makes me think about why I don't. I may be one of the few, but I still definitely appreciate hearing your thoughts and opinions. Also, I enjoyed seeing you at PAX. Sad I didn't get the plushie number right. Tongue.
See, that kind of engagement and stuff is good, but you have to have some way to limit it so it doesn't just go off all the time and so you can't make your normal kind of content. So I have a free mechanism that you can communicate your thoughts on my stream if you want to, but I also have a paid one if someone wants to not wait and wants to communicate. The amount of money that I get from bits and donations is a trivial sum compared to what I make from, say, ad revenue on YouTube. But it's the exact same as it was when these things first came out. I remember listening to older streamers talk about when donations first became a thing on Twitch and the alerts and stuff first became a thing. People just did it to make funny thing happen on stream. Some people think it's worth, in my case, $2 to say something to thousands of people. It's kind of like if you were at a football game and you were like, you had the ability to go on the screen in the middle for 15 seconds for $2. I'd do it. Eve, I do sometimes wonder what my life would have been like had I stuck to commentary content and video essays. I'm sure I would not be as successful as I am now, but I could be a much worse person. Maybe I would have just changed as a person to actually be competitive in that kind of environment. How has taking psychology in college helped you with your reasoning ability? You seem to be able to articulate yourself very well. I can't tell you to what degree taking psych courses helped me in that regard, because at the same time, I was spending most of my time listening to people debate their ideas about philosophy and religion, especially morality, and that probably helped more. More than this though, I think reading during your foundational years probably helps a lot, because even in my case where I read fiction books, it shows people in how they act and why they do the things that they do and how people can respond, even if they're in fictional scenarios, right? You gotta think about stuff. You're introduced to a lot of different words that you wouldn't normally in just a kind of closed off little bubble. Because there was a time when I was going through like a book a week or book every 2 weeks or whatever. I was just like inhaling them. This is of course when Australia had very, very bad internet, right? And of course social media was far less of a thing. Like, then TikTok wasn't a thing. I would have no money, and so I would pirate books and use this program to change the pages of a PDF into like a size of a screen this big. And so like each slide on my iPod would have like 20 words on it, and I'd be like, just so I could read more books. Whenever I got money, I would obviously buy physical books because it was way better. Obviously, I'm not that way anymore. I was 10 plus years ago, I don't know about a very different person, but I was a different person, and in many ways a better person. I really cared about believing true things and being able to argue from my perspective and knowing more about the world and learning things. And I just think a lot of it's foolishness. The amount of impressively dumb people who cannot, even if you gave them a year, defend anything that they believe, who just spout complete nonsense, who go to sleep every night happy despite that. There's a lot of them, a surprising amount of them. I don't think understanding more about the world or being intellectually justified in all your positions is as great a key to happiness as I once believed. So me and TG were in Miami. We were looking for board games to play with our girlfriends. There's a huge wall of board games, as is the case in Walmart and stuff. And I said, hey, Exploding Kittens. It doesn't look very good, but I've heard from like multiple people online that it's like really, really good. I was like, whatever. So we played it. We liked it so much that we ended up going to like other stores throughout our trip trying to find additional expansions to the game. And since then, obviously, we haven't played it. But Aitana's friends from a long time ago were coming around, and so we decided to play Exploding Kittens, and it was so fun. So there's like, it's actually kind of confusing because they have so many modifications to the main game, like where they just changes the pictures and stuff. But there's 3 games of it: Party Mix, Exploding Zombie Kittens, and Good versus Evil. And then there's like 3 expansion decks you can put in those for additional fun. And I bought those yesterday, so we'll play those again. Another thing we played was like I think it's called a Nomia. You may have heard of it. I might be saying it wrong. It's where there's 2 decks and you each have a card in front of you and you flip a card and it'll have a symbol on it. If your symbol matches another person's symbol, you have to say a word associated with the word that's on their card. So it might say song, and you just have to say Macarena. And if you say the word before they say your word, you get their card, and that's 1 point.
There are huge communities around GTA 5 in different languages, and the videos about the story are almost always wrong, but they pull big numbers.
I was actually watching on, I went on BiliBili, and I looked up GTA 5. So for those who don't know, BiliBili is the Chinese equivalent of YouTube. And going to the website, it really looks like YouTube in like 2013 or something. I looked up GTA 5 and it just looked like so little content. The reason I looked into it is because I could hypothetically multi-stream that with some massive amounts of difficulty. But the problem with the website is it is really based around you being from China. Like you need to have like a national ID and a Chinese bank account to get paid. The one creator group that I know that puts their content on BiliBili, I've been told that they have never bothered to collect a single cent because they haven't gone to China to get it. And like, I don't know any Chinese people. I know someone who lives in Hong Kong, but I don't think that counts for this purpose. I'm not sure who I'd trust to help me, right? Sounds like a terrible platform. Yeah, it's in the list of things, like getting on another platform as a content creator with minimal effort is often the best way to like expand your reach. Secondary is, you know, dubbing your content or subtitling it, but that has less benefit and takes more effort. Look at my new camera. It looks basically like my old camera, except sharper, but now it's got like very quick autofocus. I basically ran out yesterday and I was like, oh, finally, after 4 years or whatever, a new Sony A7's come out. I know there's R versions, whatever, but I had the A7 IV, so I went and got the A7 V. And when I posted on Reddit, coincidentally, that I got the A7 V, someone was like, why didn't you get the FX3? I was like, I've never heard of the FX3. Came out in 2021, apparently. And like that led me to look up like all the comparisons between the Sony A7 V and the FX3. And honestly, I probably should have gotten the FX3. The difference is so tiny, but the A7 V is definitely better than the FX3 if you're like a hybrid user, because FX3 has shit photos. It's missing a bunch of small little features and stuff. But video, FX3 is slightly better than this, what I have. And I was like, wow, well, that sucks. Except that this has like better autofocus. And the main thing that was screwing me up before was autofocus. And maybe it was better I got this anyway, right? So what happened, the issues I was having, chat, is obviously cameras, actual cameras, are not designed to be used as webcams. Neither are lenses. Lenses assume you're going to be using them for a couple of hours or whatever, bada bing, bada boom, and then you're done for the day at max. Me, I use this lens and camera not only all day while streaming, but I often leave the camera on when I stop streaming. So the lens all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is autofocusing. Over and over and over again for years. And I never really thought about this. I wasn't convinced that my issue was with the lens. But now that I've identified that it is an issue with the lens, it obviously makes sense that the autofocus would eventually die given the nature of how I used the camera and the lens. So I had 3 lenses, each worth like $1,500 die, and now I have a 4th one. Stupidly, I actually tried to buy myself another one, a different one that I thought would be a little bit better for my use case, but it turned out to be too zoomed in close. So I couldn't use it. And that means I was also at another $1,500. This camera setup is expensive. The thing I don't like about this is the coloring, I think. It's sharp, but I don't know.
Matt, you might need a head transplant, unfortunately.
No, I'm doing good, man. One of the things I did talk about in that unreleased ramble is my changing perceptions on who my rambles talks to. I talked about how like my videos, including my shorts, reached like 10 million people last month. Maybe like 2.5 of that, 2.5 million is people who watch my long form content. I get more views than that, but obviously each individual watches multiple videos. So probably on average a person watches 4 videos or something, but whatever. But so that's so many millions of people. And people who watch my shorts are a part of my audience too, right? But my rambles have always got like, 50,000 views at most. And so when I tell something about myself in rambles, the overwhelming vast majority of people who watch me will never know of that, regardless of how many times I tell it in rambles. I could just release every single day telling one fact about myself forever, and there will always be new people coming in who don't know that thing, and there will always be the vast majority who are already here that don't know that. And so little Jamie baby says, Matt, you might need a hair transplant, unfortunately. So I've talked about my hair and how it's going and all that jazz multiple times, but like they don't know that. Like I could say again, like my hair started to recede up here for a while, and so I started to use derma stamping and minoxidil, and so it stopped. It just stopped there. But then I started to use this stuff from Get Mosh, which is a minoxidil retinol. It's a retinoic acid and finasteride combined together. Finasteride and minoxidil are the two main things people use to stop hair loss. But the reason some people are wary of finasteride is because if you take it orally, it gets into your bloodstream, of course, and it works on your hormones and stuff, so it can affect your sexual performance, which is a very small amount of people this happens to, but people are still worried about doing that. But the topical stuff, next to none of it gets into your bloodstream because it's just on your head, but you can only get it from certain places. And so Get Mosh is a website in Australia, at least, that gave me access. And it's actually grown back the little bit of hair that I lost up here. My hairline has always looked like this. In fact, I'm not gonna find the pictures. I actually showed on stream my hairline when I was like 21, and it was just this. This is what it's always been. I'm not likely gonna need a hair transplant. And especially considering that right now, there are additional topical treatments that are coming down the line that seem very promising in terms of actually solving balding. There's some stuff that's like very late in the trial stuff where it could even bring back hair for people who are entirely bald, apparently. It might be the first new treatment in like 40 years or something for balding. And so if you are bald, maybe in the next 5 years or something, maybe you can reverse that. I'm not sure what it costs, but I mean, like I say these things, I shouldn't give you false hope. Like there's all the time promising drugs come around, and they end up not getting anywhere because they're too expensive, or they have weird side effects, or like the amount of people that it would have some positive effect for is so low that it wouldn't be worth treating 1,000 people to have one person receive some benefit. Yeah, so that's the state of my hair. Enjoy that information. Hi! Getting to the end of a Viper Rambles episode proves that you like me and my work far more than the average person. Given that, it's possible that you might find value in becoming a YouTube member. Members get early access to all my videos, including Rambles, as well as access to my growing library of re-uploaded deleted videos, 5% off my merch, and the ability to leave comments and feedback before public release, which is incredibly helpful for me and my team. You also get a cute badge next to your name, so I can easily identify you in my comment section and live stream chats, and you can also use all my cute emotes everywhere on the channel. Lastly, after 3 months of being a member, you can submit on my Discord to join my GTA Online crew. Thanks for the consideration, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you enjoy future ones as well.